Feed and feeding practices necessary for snail production. This means that we are trying to discuss what you can feed your snails, what you can present to your snails to ensure optimal production among your in your snail enterprise. It is important to know what to present or what to feed to your snail to ensure that your snail grow well, to ensure that your snail produce at the right time, to ensure that your snail lay eggs and lay eggs to the optimal. So in this lesson we are going to discuss what you can present to your snails for optimal production in your snail enterprise. So the first thing you can feed your snail is plantain leaves. Plantain leaves or banana leaves. As you can see in the picture, it is the green leaf you cut from a plantain tree. This this provides two things. One, it feeds your snail, and two, it provides shade in your snail pen. It also keeps your snail pen cool, whereas the snails feed on the plantain leaves. The second thing you can present to your snail is African spinach, and this leaf is vegetable. It is edible to humans, and it is a source of vitamin. It is a source of vitamin. African spinach can be presented to snails to support them optimally. Another thing that can be fed to snails are water leaves. Water leaves can be eaten by humans as well, and it is this succulent vegetable that can be presented to snail for optimal production. Just as I mentioned earlier about plantain leaves, banana leaves can be presented to snails, and they can be used to shade the pen to create that nocturnal effect, that dark effect within the pen, even as the snail feed on them. Pawpaw leaves are good um, feed that you can offer to snails to support their growth. Pawpaw leaves. Tender flowers. Flowers can be presented to your snails as well, and they are going to feed on it and gain nutrients from flowers. So you can give your snails tender flowers to feed on. Cocoyam leaves. Cocoyam leaves are good feeding materials for your snails. If you have access to cocoyam leaves, it is very good to present cocoyam leaves to your snails. Fruits like pineapple can be given to your snails. Mind you, when you should take caution while presenting fruits to your snails because they usually attract insect, ants into your snail pen. So when you feed fruits or overripened fruits to your snails, you should monitor properly so that you can pack excess or leftovers on time to prevent ants from taking over your snail house. Sliced pawpaw. It is very important I should mention that when you are presenting fruits to your snails, it should be sliced. It should not be given to them as a whole, as a bulk. Once it is sliced, it makes it easy for them to be able to munch or to eat the fruit very well. Egg plant, that is garden egg. It can be presented to your snails. When you're presenting garden egg to your snail, you should try and slice it to make it easy for your snails to feed on them. Tomato fruits can be presented to your snails. um just make sure that you slice them and present it to the snails. Banana fruits are good feeding materials for your snails, so make sure you present Banana fruits are a good source of potassium for your snails, so it is a good idea to present banana fruit to your snails. Sliced mango fruits. Mango fruit is a very good feeding materials, especially when mango is in season. You realize that you have mangoes, you can lay your hands on mangoes at cheap prices, or even wild mangoes for people that live in areas where they can fetch wild mangoes from the bush, and yes, you can feed to your snails. So mangoes can be very good feeding materials for your snails. Lettuce. This is a green vegetable that you can feed to your snails. So yes, you can feed lettuce to your snails. The next one is cucumber. When you are feeding cucumber to your snail, make sure that make sure that the cucumber is properly sliced so that it is easy for the snails to feed on them. Orange slices. Yes, you can feed orange to your snail. Just make sure that it is sliced. It is a good source of vitamin C to your snails, so you can feed orange to your snails. um other feed materials you can present to your snails are leftover foods from the household, like cooked rice, cooked beans, pap, porridge. Yes, you can present them. The only thing you need to avoid is salt. Do not present food, household leftover food that contains salt to your snails. Do not present salt in any form to your snails. um Decomposing plants and decomposing fruits can as well be fed to your snails. For instance, you have some bananas in the house and you could not take them anymore because you feel they are bad, they are decomposed. You can give them to the snail. You can feed them to the snails, as well as decomposing plants, maybe vegetable in the house that you're no longer using in the household. You can put them in the snail house, they will feed on them. One very important note to take is green pawpaw fruit. Green pawpaw fruit is a very special feeding material for snails. Reason being that it's aiding growth and production rates of the snails. So if you have access to green pawpaw fruit, just slice it and present it to your snail, because it will help hasten their growth and also their rate of production. Milled corn or milled guinea corn can as well be presented to your snails. The only thing is, when you are presenting it, you must have milled it. If it is corn, if it is guinea corn, if it is millet, any form of grain that you want to present to your snail, you must mill it to powder form. And when you are presenting it to your snail in powder form, you must make sure that you mix it with water, make it into a paste before you present it in the feeding trough for your snail. It is a very good source of feed to your snail. It is a very good feeding material for your snail. When you present cornmeal or guinea corn meal to your snail, they can be combined as a snail mash. This snail mash will contain dietary requirement for snail. You know, it is very important for snails to take calcium and all the dietary nutrients. So when you're combining when you're making snail mash, it can be combined with other nutrients to make sure that the mash is sufficient in nutrient for the snail. Powdered egg can be powdered eggshell can be presented to the snails to supplement for calcium. That is to supply calcium to the snails, because calcium deficient snails will have their shells turning whitish. That is, once your snail's shells are turning whitish, then you should know that your snails are deficient of calcium. And it occurs, this deficiency in calcium occurs most times in snails that are domesticated. So once you start to see whitish snail's shell, then you should know that your snails are lacking calcium. And a good way of giving calcium to your snails is to make eggs shell into powder form, then you put it in their feeding trough. They are going to take it, feed on the calcium. So far we have mentioned that snails have a broad range of feed. You can give them leaves, you can give them fruits, you can make their mash, you can give them calcium in form of powdered eggshell. And snails feeding is very important, because once you don't feed your snails effectively, they will not grow, and as well will not produce as at when they are supposed to reproduce, or they will not produce optimally. So it is very important to produce, to feed or present adequate feed to your snail, to ensure that your snails are producing and doing well optimally.